1780, a new free reed variant was developed in Europe at the end of the 18th century. This new free reed variant was integrated into existing European church organs and other musical instruments from 1790 onwards. Around 1804, Johann Nepomuck Maelzel, German inventor, engineer, and showman, developed a musical automaton in Vienna, which he called the Panharmonicon. Mälzel also integrated the new free reed variant into this music automaton. Mälzel built several Panharmonicons, and one was sent to Boston, Massachusetts, USA, in 1811. William Marcellus Goodrich, an organ builder from Boston, was hired to assemble and show this musical instrument in the USA. William Marcellus Goodrich, previously Goodrich, was one of the first organ builders in Boston, also called the father of the Boston organ building industry. The Panharmonicon from 1811 is believed to be the first instrument with European free reed organ technology in the USA. But there are unconfirmed records that free reed organs existed in the USA before 1811. Was a free reed technique already sent from Europe to the USA before 1811? Hidden in pipe organ instruments? 2. Pipe organ building history in America before the Panharmonicon arrives in USA in 1811. Spanish missions. The first pipe organs from Europe came even before the first English settlements in the New World. First permanent English settlements in the New World. Jamestown, 1607. Plymouth, 1620. About 100 years earlier, the Spanish conquerors brought organ technology to the New World, to Central America. Pedro de Gante, Franciscan missionary, opened a music school in Mexico as early as 1524. In 1527, an organ was built in a church in Texcoco. The building and playing of the organs in Mexico and New Spain was mostly done by locals under the guidance of the Spanish conquistadors. 1605, on an expedition from Juan de Oñate to Santa Fe, the Franciscan Cristobal de Quiñones stayed in San Felipe Pueblo. Cristobal de Quiñones built a church in San Felipe Pueblo, and an organ was also built for the church. It is no longer known how the organ came to San Felipe Pueblo. 1630, the monk Garcia de San Francisco y Zúñiga installs an organ in the church in Cenacu. 1664, there are records that there were organs in 17 of 27 Spanish missions. 1680, Pueblo Revolt. Revolt of indigenous Pueblo people against the Spanish colonizers in what is now New Mexico. Churches and their organs were destroyed and burned down during the Pueblo Revolt. Eugène Duflot de Moffres, French naturalist, botanist, diplomat, mentions 2 organs in Alta California in his travelogues in the mid-19th century. San Juan Bautista Mission, barrel organ with 3 cylinders, brought by the British. And Santa Clara Mission, small organ from France. (3) Pipe organ history, English colonies. The first mention of an organ in the English colonies on the Atlantic coast dates almost 200 years later than in Central America. 1701, the earliest recorded organ in this area, came from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. A small organ was lent to the Gloria Dei Church, known locally as Old Swedes of Philadelphia, by German immigrants, known as Hermits of the Wissahickon. It is no longer known where the organ came from, where it was imported, or where it was built. The organ is no longer preserved. 1708. The oldest still existing and playable organ in the USA is the Brattle organ. Thomas Brattle. Puritan, treasurer of Harvard College, a founder of the Brattle Square Church, Boston, Massachusetts. Thomas Brattle was the owner of an organ with 4 stops in his house in Boston, which he imported from England and used for secular music and devotions. The manufacturer and year of import are unknown, but it is assumed to be before 1708. Thomas Brattle left the organ to Brattle Square Church, in his will, with an option for the King's Chapel in Boston, if Brattle Square Church did not accept it, for religious reasons. Brattle Square Church did not accept the organ, so it ended up in the King's Chapel, Boston, Massachusetts. 1713, King's Chapel in Boston, where the Brattle organ was played since 1714, for 40 years. 1754, the King's Chapel wooden church was converted into a stone church, Stone Chapel. A new organ, built by Richard Bridge from London, was installed. The Brattle organ was removed to St. Paul's Church in Newburyport, and then to St. John's Church, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. The Brattle organ has been rebuilt and altered many times, but the wind chest, wooden pipes, and some of the metal pipes are original. The organ was renovated in 1963 by C.B. Fisk, and is now located in the upper right gallery, in St. John's Church, at 101 Chapel Street in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, United States. In the early days of North American organ building history, most organs were imported from England, and some also from Germany. The first traditions of organ building in the 13 colonies were formed in Pennsylvania by German immigrants. David Tannenberg, a Moravian organ builder, who emigrated to Pennsylvania, is said to be the most important American organ builder of this period. Some of the organs built by David Tannenberg are still in use today. Home Moravian Church. 1800, Tannenberg made the instrument in his workshop in Lititz, Pennsylvania, but could no longer install it himself due to his age of 72. So he sent his journeyman, Johann Philipp Bachmann. In 2003 to 2004, the organ was thoroughly restored to its 1800 condition by Taylor and Booty Organ Builders, Staunton, Virginia, USA. Absolutely impressive work by Taylor and Booty. Tannenberg's restored organ is today placed in the Visitor Center at Old Salem. As you can see, organ building had already reached a very high level when the Panharmonicon came to the USA in 1811. 4. Possible, first free reed organ in the USA. The first European free reed variant was developed in 1780. The Orgue Expressif by Greene from 1810 is always mentioned as the first free reed organ. But church organs in Europe have been extended with the new free reed variant since 1790. Since organs, or organ parts, were also exported from Europe to the USA between 1790 and 1811, a European free reed variant could have arrived in the USA before the Panharmonicon. Which brings us to the unconfirmed claim that a free reed organ was built in the USA as early as 1809, 1 year before the orgue expressif in Europe. It is written that the Boston organ builder Ebenezer Goodrich built 1809 a small organ, entirely furnished with free reed stops, for the portrait painter Gilbert Stuart. We already know an organ builder Goodrich, from Boston. William Goodrich, who picked up the Panharmonicon from Europe. Ebenezer Goodrich is the brother of William Goodrich. William Marcellus Goodrich, previously Goodrich, also called the father of the Boston organ building industry. William Marcellus Goodrich is born in Templeton, Worcester County, Massachusetts, USA, where his father was a farmer. Goodrich was largely self-educated in organ building, and became one of the most important organ builders in the USA. One of the sources for William Goodrich from which he learned organ building was an edition of L'Art du Facteur d'Orgues, by Dom Bidos de Celles. The Art of the Organ Builder is a work by the Benedictine monk and organ builder Dom Bidos de Celles, which was published in Paris, from 1766 to 1778. About 1804, William opens with his brother Ebenezer an organ building shop in Boston. William Goodrich, his brother Ebenezer, and their brother-in-law Thomas Appleton were among the founders of an organ building industry in the USA. But not only the Goodrich brothers, but also two Goodrich sisters, have left their mark on American history. Elizabeth Goodrich, Miniature Art by Elizabeth Goodrich. Miniature Art by Sarah Goodrich. Sarah Goodrich went to Boston with her brother William, where she lived with her sister Elizabeth, as a miniature painter, from 1820 onwards. In Boston, Sarah met the portrait painter, Gilbert Stuart. Gilbert Stuart is one of the most important portrait painters in the United States history. Gilbert Stuart was interested in the miniature painting of Sarah Goodrich. He criticized her work and gave her lessons in technique. In 1825, Sarah painted a portrait of Gilbert Stuart, which he later claimed was the only realistic portrait ever painted of him. Gilbert Stuart's most famous painting is the Athenaeum portrait of George Washington, the first president of the USA. This painting was used as a template for a postage stamps and for the $1 banknote, mirrored. This means that almost all the facts of this unconfirmed claim can be verified. Ebenezer Goodrich possibly met Gilbert Stuart through his sister Sarah. Ebenezer learned organ building from his brother William, with whom he opened an organ building business in Boston in 1804. But the date 1809 of the Gilbert Stuart free reed organ has not yet been clarified. The Panharmonicon, with the first recorded free reeds in the USA, only arrived in 1811 in Boston. At this time, Ebenezer was already working independently as an organ builder, and concentrated on building smaller organ instruments. The construction method of this Ebenezer Goodrich organ is very similar to what can be found in L'Art du Facteur d'Orgues. Possible explanations. Option 1. Ebenezer received one of the first European free reed pipe variants that had been used in organs in Europe since 1790, before 1811, and used it to build a pure free reed organ, even before the arrival of the Panharmonicon. Option 2. Ebenezer was given an insight into the free reed technology of the Panharmonicon from his brother William, and built a pure free reed organ with the same technology. But the year was passed on incorrectly. It remains a mystery, but the facts show that it could have been technically possible that a free reed organ could have been built in the USA before the Panharmonicon in 1811 arrived, and even before the first European free reed organ, the Orgue Expressif, in 1810. Or maybe it was William, who had the knowledge of the free reed technique from the Panharmonicon, who built this first free reed organ in the USA, but after 1811. 5. Mysterious source of a free reed organ built in the USA. Another, even more mysterious source of the first free reed organ built in the USA dates from 1818. An organ patent that burned in the 1836 U.S. Patent Office fire and mysteriously reappeared. This patent will play a role in the invention of the first American free reed organ with suction wind technology, about 30 years later in 1846. The history of the melodeon to be seen in one of the next parts of this series. Six. The further history of the Panharmonicon in the USA. So, the Panharmonicon arrived in Boston in June 1811, and was handed over to William Goodrich. In September 1811, Goodrich dismantled the Panharmonicon and reassembled it in New York. Further exhibitions followed in other cities in the USA. 1823, William Goodrich built his own Panharmonicon on the basis of a Mälzel Panharmonicon. 1826, Johann Nepomuck Maelzel, the inventor and builder of the Panharmonicon, comes to the United States. Mälzel reached America with some more of his inventions and purchased objects, which he exhibited, and some of which he also sold, in the USA. The Schatzturk, chess Turk, attracted the most attention. Mälzel bought the chess Turk in Vienna, from the estate of Wolfgang von Kempelen, who had built it. The Schatzturk burned in a fire at Peale's Museum in Philadelphia in 1854. Mälzel showed his exhibits in many cities in the USA. He spent most of his time in Philadelphia, where he exhibited in the Mälzel Hall. In 1838, Mälzel died on a ship on his return voyage from the South to North America. Mälzel constructed also hearing aids for Ludwig van Beethoven, who suffered from progressive deafness in his later years. Mälzel also brought the metronome to the USA, whose namesake he is, and which he first patented in 1815. And whose technology he adopted from another instrument maker. Mälzel brought many exhibits to the United States for his shows, almost all of which have an interesting history. A technical drawing of the mechanism of a speaking puppet from a Mälzel patent can be found in Nouveau Manuel Complet du Facteur d'Orgues. The Panharmonicon from Mälzel was exhibited by William Goodrich before Mälzel arrived in the USA. In the next part of this USA Free Reed Organ History series. In the next part of this series, you will get to know about James Amireaux Bazin. James Amireaux Bazin was born in Boston as the son of French immigrants, and probably the first to build and invent free reed musical instruments in the USA. Verifiably documented. Bazin invented some fascinating free reed instruments, such as a revolving free reed trumpet. He invented the rocking melodeon, also called lap organ. And James Amireaux Bazin may even have invented the world's first harmonica. Don't miss the fascinating history of the free reed instruments of James Amireaux Bazin, from Punkapoag Massachusetts, USA.